Hello and welcome to the Buckeye Postgame Show, and not the postgame show we wanted to do today, but having said that, being realistic about Ohio State this season, they won their first game on a Thursday night in a Big Ten game at Minnesota, 45-31. The defense wasn't good at all. Last year in the Alabama game, they gave up 52 points, so the defense has been a major issue for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And today, the defense was terrible, once again, giving up 35 points, 505 yards. And the Buckeyes lose today at home to Oregon, who was playing without its top two defensive players and five defensive starters. And they had to travel from the West Coast to the East Coast. This was a 9 a.m. kickoff, basically, for them with the 12 noon start here in Ohio. And yet Oregon outplayed, outcoached, out-physicaled, out everything Ohio State today, and they get the upset win 35-28, their first ever win over Ohio State. And for them, this is what it was like when the Buckeyes beat Clemson last year, when they beat the Tigers for the first time ever. So a huge win for Oregon, a bad loss for Ohio State. But should we really be surprised based on, well, the defense, a first-time ever quarterback who played very well, except for the last two possessions when the pressure was on him and they needed him the most? And we're going to break this down with you on Facebook here. Send your questions, your comments. We'll try and answer as many as we can. And let me bring in from WFNY, waiting for next year's Josh Paloa joining us here on the Buckeyes postgame show. And I'm having some feedback in my headset, Josh. So bear with me here as I get that squared away and everything as we try and get rocking and rolling here. And Josh, should we really be surprised that the Buckeyes lost this game?
I'm more surprised at how little the offense did points-wise than I am that the defense is bad.
So you expected, what, 42 points out of the Buckeyes offense or what?
Yeah, I expected 40-plus easy.
Okay.
Yeah, like I texted you Ohio State by 28. I didn't mean Ohio State would score 28. I meant Ohio State would win by 28. With Oregon missing 5 defensive starters, one of them being a top 3 NFL draft pick next year.
Right.
I figured Ryan Day's offense would just have a field day. And yards by, if you looked at the box score without looking at the score, you'd be like, oh, wow, Ohio State must have dominated. But they just couldn't convert when it was needed.
Yeah, they struggled twice on 4th and 2 situations. And I know those don't count as turnovers on the official stat sheet, Josh, but when you go for it on 4th and 2 and you're in the opponent's territory, that's a turnover. You came away with 0 points in that situation. And then the interception, a horrible throw and decision by C.J. Stroud on their second to last possession of the game. And the announcers were dead on today. When he misses, he overthrows. And on the what was it? Let's not count the last possession where they got it at their 10. The previous 2 possessions, he misses a wide open Garrett Wilson for a game-tying touchdown, right? Overthrows him. And then on the next possession, 3rd and 18, the pressure's there, and this is where the inexperience, I think, comes in with a young quarterback. Yes, you want to pick up the first down if you can, but you have to live to play another down. And he tries to force the ball in there on 3rd and 18, overthrow, and it's intercepted. He should have tucked it and got whatever he could. And then on 4th down, if you throw an interception, that's okay, because you have to throw the ball anyways to get the first down. So it's hard to pick on C.J. Stroud, who threw for nearly 500 yards in this game, but his last 2 possessions were extremely costly. It's not why they lost the game. The defense, to me, is why they lost the game. The defense stinks. It stunk last year. It may be worse this year. And so the Buckeyes, like I said, when you look at it, out-coached, out-played, out-schemed, out-defensed, out-physicaled, out-offensed, out everything, and give Oregon all the credit coming across the country and getting the win.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the defense is so tough. They're super young. Besides a few guys, every defensive player is going to be back next year, without even looking at the roster. So I don't know if it's like the inexperience or the coaching. I think it's a combination. So it's the inexperienced players making Kerry Coombs look worse than he should be looking, if that makes sense.
Right.
But I also think Kerry Coombs isn't putting his players in the best position to succeed, which is what a coach should do. So I think it's just a combination. And when you have Oregon, who runs a flashy offense, we talked about, they were already missing 5 defensive players, but we knew that they had a flashy offense, a solid offensive line, a veteran quarterback who's played in plenty of big games. And they just seemingly, the first 3 quarters of the game, if whatever they wanted to run, they ran. I mean, their first 3 touchdowns were on the same exact play, and Ohio State didn't have an answer for it.
And we heard throughout the broadcast talking about the Buckeyes playing man-to-man and being out-schemed, and they shouldn't be in the man-to-man. And I'm hearing that all game long, and I'm thinking, Mr. Bill and I were sitting there going the entire game, we're thinking, what the hell's going on, Kerry Combs? What are you doing? You haven't changed from Alabama to Minnesota to Oregon. And this defense, the scheme, is he in over his head? He used to be the defensive backs coach. Now he's got all the pressure of being the defensive coordinator. And Cam Brown was back today, right, Josh? Seven Banks was back today, right? Josh Proctor started.
I don't think Seven was.
Did he not play? Okay.
I don't. He was not on the pregame report, but I don't think he played. Denzel Burke started, and I don't think Seven played.
All right, because I was looking.
Either way.
I heard before the game they were expecting him to go. He was going to dress, but Proctor, we know, played and then had to leave. Cameron Brown played. But still, the defensive line, Josh, 0 sacks today, right? The linebackers out of position in terrible angle. When is the last time the Buckeyes had a decent linebacker? How many years do you got? 5, 6 years you got to go back where they've had an impact linebacker? None of these Pete Werner and whoever last year and these guys they have this year, none of these guys are you're getting all these 4- and 5-star recruits. It just blows my mind that we're hearing about these great recruiting classes. And I know you're reloading at Ohio State, but Alabama reloads every year, right? And they don't look this bad. So just a frustrating loss. But again, I guess I should temper things here, deep breath, and say they're not as good as we thought they were. Right?
Yes. And as Ohio State fans, we're a bit spoiled. I mean, that's Ryan Day's first regular season loss in 24 games, and we are very angry. I think 99.9% of college football fan bases would be ecstatic if their team went 23-1 in the regular season. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it goes both ways, though, because at Ohio State, we don't expect to be good. We expect to be perfect. And a regular season loss like this, especially at home, the first home game in 567 days, I think it was. Yeah. The crowd was rocking in the fourth quarter. The crowd was rocking. It's just tough to see. Like, if this game happened at Oregon, I'd be like, okay, it was at Oregon. Then it's just tough. It's much tougher because it was a home game.
Do you hear the cat in the background? Can you hear Gonzo? Yeah, Gonzo's losing his mind as well. I don't know, Brittany's out working out or something, and Frankie's out with her, and Gonzo, I think he's upset that the Buckeyes lost, and he won't shut up. He's talking more than I am, which is hard to do, and everything. So, 35-28, the final. Oregon, the winner over Ohio State. Let's get some of these comments in here, Josh, that we have coming in, and a lot of people watching us on Facebook today. John Connor, well, that sucked. What an inexcusable loss by Ohio State, and the refs were idiots for not calling targeting on that jackass who went helmet first into Olave's back. Yeah, it did suck. I thought that was a targeting call based on what happened to Justin Fields last year, but did they not call it because it wasn't the quarterback? Do you think that's why they let that one slide, that it was a receiver and it wasn't up around the head area, Josh?
Yeah, I tweeted it during the game. Targeting college football might be the worst penalty in sports.
Okay.
Because it's literally a pass-fail test. If it's not targeting, you're good. If it is targeting, you're ejected and potentially missed. Like, if that guy would have been ejected, he would have missed the first half of the next game. And then there's just so much discretion. Like, even you just said, last year it happened to Justin Fields. It was targeting. This year, same exact play, but to a receiver, and it wasn't. I mean, I just think targeting is something that the college football has to figure out, and they have to figure it out ASAP.
All right, this one coming in to us. Buckeyes defense stimmy today. I think he meant stinks today. Well, not just today, Quentin Singleton. It stunk today. It stunk last week, and it stunk against Alabama. So it stunk for a while. And let's look at Kerry Combs, Josh. I mean, players have changed, right? Yeah, and some of them are younger and they're inexperienced. That, and that's, we'll factor that in. But the defensive coordinator's the same, and it was one of the worst ever at Ohio State last year and the year before. What do you do with Kerry Combs? You can't fire him after 2 games, can you? But doesn't he have to make some changes?
I think he's in over his head as a defensive coordinator. I think he's a great recruiter, a good cornerbacks coach, but I think Ryan Day is slowly learning that he should not have promoted from within when Jeff Hafley left to take the Boston College coaching job.
All right. Got some more on my phone here. I'm doing like 3 different. I've got my laptop, I've got my iPad, and I got my phone going here. Brad Hajostik says, yes, it was targeting. And he's checking us out today. Thanks, Brad. We appreciate that. How is it not targeting when you tackle with your head? From Mike S. Woodling. Mike, I agree with you. I thought it should have been called. Leslie Bell says, I'm an angry Buckeye fan right now. Our boys were 14.5-point favorites against a team they've beaten 9 previous times, including in the national championship game. But you know what, Josh? If you listen to the Kenny and JT show this week, I had it 38-27 Buckeyes winning. I didn't think they would cover. I was worried about this game, but yet I still figured they would find a way to outscore them. That defense scared the daylights out of me, and I'm even more scared now. Now, granted, let's see here. What is it? Akron and Tulsa, or Tulsa then Akron, the next 2 games. So they'll win those 2 games, but they got to get this defense figured out before the Big Ten season starts, even though they have 1 game already in the books in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I'm worried about everything defensively, including the defensive coordinator, besides the cornerbacks. I'm very high on Denzel Burke and Cameron Brown and Sevin Banks when he comes back. I think they're a solid group, but linebackers have so many. The linebackers seem too slow, and the safeties seem to, I guess, Josh Proctor's backup. I can't think Shaw. I think Brian Shaw. He seemed to have a lot of misreads, like on that last Oregon touchdown. He thought it was a run, so he came up and left the Oregon receiver wide open in the end zone. I just think everywhere besides the cornerback is a huge question mark right now, including even like Zach Harrison. He's supposed to be a first-round pick, and he didn't do shit today.
Yeah, he was bad. He was very, very bad today. The defensive line, for all the hype, and JTT got in there and made a nice play. You know what? Sawyer created a holding call. That sometimes Ohio State coaches are loyal to a fault, Josh, and they stick with the upperclassmen too long. Well, guess what? If the freshmen are better than the upperclassmen, okay, and you've given up 66 points in 2 games, and that's not Clemson, Alabama, or Oklahoma, you better make some changes on the defensive line as well as the linebackers in the secondary, or you better change your scheme real quick in the next 2 weeks and try and get something that'll work for your squad.
Like I said,
go ahead.
Like I said earlier, I think it's just a combination of Coombs' scheme and not really making adjustments. And then just the linebackers and defensive line just not being as good as they're supposed to be. I guess the linebackers were always a question mark, just like we discussed ever since freaking 4 or 5 years ago. It's always been the biggest question mark defensively. But as a coach and as a coordinator, you're supposed to put your players in the best position to succeed. And if a team is scoring 3 touchdowns on the same exact play, you're just not doing that.
Yeah, no adjustments are being made. Craig Easterday texted us in the Facebook chat room. Totally outplayed. They were prepared, smarter, and just ready to play. The Bucs are just plain bad on defense, lack of experience on that side of the ball. No linebackers, no DBs, no adjustments. How many times do you get beat on what you just said? The same damn play. Very disappointing. Tulsa will be a tough game next week. They gave Oklahoma State a real battle.
Come on, Craig.
Hey, this defense, if I'm Tulsa right now, I'm licking my chops going up against this defense. I think the Buckeyes will win, but offensively, if I'm Tulsa, I don't know what their defense is like, but hey, let's Minnesota put 31 up on them. Oregon put 35 on them. So it'll be closer than what people expect. Just like people expected the Buckeyes to win today. Oregon opened a can, according to Brad Hajostik, Let's see here. Go ahead, Josh.
It's a blueprint on how to beat Ohio State, which is just attack their slow linebackers.
Yeah. My buddy Stevie Yurjevich back in Pennsylvania, big Pitt Panthers fan. I guess they're 2-0. The Buckeyes are 1-1, so he's happy about that.
They beat Johansson's Tennessee Volunteers today.
Did they really? So, Rocky Top, not dancing or singing, just like in Columbus today, huh? So there's some of the other messages that are coming in. Let's see here. John Connor, the targeting is subjective. There's no consistency.
Yes,
I agree with you
absolutely.
there. From Brad Snyder, how can you score in the same play 3 times? Hope that Kerry Combs is your defensive coordinator, Brad Snyder. That's how you score on the same play 3 times, I guess. What else do we have here? John Connor, no adjustments by the coaching staff. Yeah. Offensively, at times, I mean, they had 600 yards, right? And C.J. Stroud threw for almost 500, and he had 3 touchdown passes, and he had 3 different receivers go over 100 yards receiving, but it wasn't enough because you turned it over 3 times. 2 4th and 2 situations you don't convert. That's a turnover, in my opinion. And then the interception late in the game. That's 21 points or at least 9 points, right, Josh, in field goals right there that you may have scored, and 9 points wins you the game. So back to the drawing board for Ryan Day, Kerry Combs, and this team. And offensively, I think they're going to be fine. Defensively, I don't know what the hell's going to happen with this team. I'm extremely concerned about this defense because I don't know how you fix it to be good enough to beat ranked teams. Not necessarily Big Ten teams, but ranked teams, Josh. This defense, to me, has not improved 1 iota from last year, and they may be worse.
Yeah. Against 90% of teams, Ohio State's offense is good enough where they can just outscore anyone they want.
Yep.
And by the way, always bet the over. Speaking of that, always bet the over if you're a betting man. But yeah, defensively against a good team, I don't know. And I don't think there's an easy fix. Like, if you take Kerry Combs back to the defensive backs coach, who are you going to bring in as a defensive coordinator? I mean, Marcus Freeman, who everyone wanted he was Cincinnati's defensive coordinator. Everyone wanted him to be Ohio State's because he's a former Ohio State linebacker. He went to Notre Dame.
Right.
Notre Dame's defense has struggled early this year too. So I just don't think, whether it's player wise or coaching wise or anything, I just don't think there's an easy fix.
All right, here's what I have as far as OSU mistakes today, Josh, in a 35-28 loss to Oregon.
A long list too.
Yeah, it is. Look, see, I hand wrote it too. It's real long. Here we go. Penalties at last check, 8 for 71, some costly penalties, false starts. Twice turned it over on downs on offense with 4th and 2 situations. Another big play given up by the defense, 76-yard touchdown run after a 56-yard run last time against Minnesota, or last week against Minnesota. No pressure on the Oregon quarterbacks all game long. I believe 0 sacks. They had as many sacks as you and I did today, Josh, 0 sacks. OSU's defense, you'll see it here on the bottom of the screen, 9 for 17 on 3rd and 4th downs. They couldn't get off the field enough for the offense. C.J. Stroud on the last 2 possessions misses a wide-open Garrett Wilson for a game-tying touchdown and overthrows on the 3rd and 18, and it's an interception. Bad decision, bad throw. Should have run the ball. Defense gives up over 500 yards and 35 points. The defense did not create a turnover. And OSU, if you're looking at, you always talk about win the turnover battle, right, Josh? Well, in my opinion, Buckeyes turned it over 3 times. Oregon did not turn it over once. So that's a -3 the way I'm looking at things, Josh, as far as that. And you're not going to win games when you're -3 in the giveaway takeaway category.
You can say that Oregon played about as perfect of a game as they could. And I mean, when you come into a number 3 ranked team at their place, you have to do that. And they just executed everything. I mean, their defense did what they had to do. They were like a bend but don't break.
No.
Their offense, up until the 4th quarter, their offense was superb. I don't know. I wish I had an answer, but I really don't. Because offensively, I still have plenty of hope. But defensively, I don't know.
Defensively, The talent's not there. Josh, I watched Georgia and Alabama play, right? I watched Notre Dame and Florida State play. And I don't know if it's the camera angles, if the cameras are closer, but those defensive players just look bigger, faster, and stronger than Ohio State's. Right now, Ohio State is not, in my opinion, a championship caliber team. Now, the good news is they've got time to try and fix it. Remember in 2014 what happened? A home loss 35-21 to Virginia Tech in the second game of the season with J.T. Barrett at quarterback. He threw 3 interceptions, the last one a pick 6. They lose that game. They were able to figure things out and go on and win the national championship, okay? So if you're the optimist, the glass is half full, that's what they're going to be talking about. But when I look at this defense, I don't see right now, I don't see one NFL caliber player on this defense. 0, in my opinion, that would be taken, if at all, in the first 5 rounds. Maybe Haskell Garrett because of his size, right? That's it. And you look at Alabama and Georgia and the size and the speed of those linebackers and defensive linemen and the corners who cover and close so quickly. I don't see Ohio State being anywhere close to those teams right now.
Yeah, I had to give a shout. Medina, one of the Medina football coaches I was texting with during the game, Chris Arthur, and shout out to Medina football as well because they've been dominating. He texted me, there's an old saying in coaching, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. And I think for Ohio State's defense, that's perfect. I mean, is Kerry Coombs doing the best he possibly can to put his players in position to succeed? No. But if you don't have the players out there that are going to be the Alabamas and Georgias of the world,
well, then
so much you can do.
Adjust with the players you do have. You can't play man-to-man. You can't. Not against the better teams. You're not getting any pressure. The way that you help this defense out with an inexperienced and depleted secondary and horrible linebackers is pressure the quarterback. Well, guess what? If you're not getting any pressure on the quarterback, you're screwed in the back 7. And the angles that the linebacker, nobody set the edge 2 weeks in a row.
Never.
They ran that same play. 3 touchdowns today. Last week, 56-yard touchdown run on a 4th down play at their own 29, Minnesota. Nobody's afraid of this defense. So take what you do have and figure out how to get the most out of those guys. And it's not man-to-man. I think it's a combination of not having the talent, okay, the Jimmies and Joes, but also the coaches not putting in the right X's and O's with the talent they do have.
Yeah, their rushing defense, it has to be one of the worst in the college football right now because I know Ibrahim, or however you pronounce it, Minnesota's running back before he tore his Achilles last week, he had like 170. Yep. I think Oregon almost had 300 today. So they've given up almost 500 rushing yards in 2 games. I mean, when you're getting dominated in the rushing attack like that, it doesn't matter how good your cornerbacks are stopping the pass.
Yeah. Paul Cray's checking in on Facebook, watching us today. Good to see and hear from you, Paul. He says, we have a 1991 defense in 2021. Not good right now. Bob Eibach, a good buddy of mine from NICOsports.com. And by the way, if you're looking for a great piece of memorabilia to commemorate the 75th season of Cleveland Browns football, go to NICOsports.com, NIKCO sports.com. Take a look. They have a special 75th anniversary Cleveland Browns football that you can get $99. Some of the money goes to charity. And if the Browns somehow, some way get to a Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a great collector's item. Makes a great Christmas gift. So go check that out. And Bob Eibach hit me up and he said, Kenny, you are so right. All the best. Have a great weekend. The defense stinks. They do. They're terrible. Josh, Minnesota and Oregon, okay? 66 points. So let's do the math. 35 and 31 is 66 plus 52. That's 100.
That's 68. 35 and 33.
35 and 31.
Oh, 31. Okay. I don't know.
Okay. 66, right?
66. Yes.
You went to Ohio State. Did they not have math there? 35.
No, you said 35 and 33.
I did. I'll go back and watch it and see if I did. I always screw up like that. Let's see. 6, 8. It's 118 points in their last 3 games.
Oof.
118 points they've given up in their last 3 games, the defense. And I don't know what they gave up to Clemson. I don't remember because they beat them, put up 49 themselves. So but 118 points in the last. So basically, they're giving up 40 points a game in the last 3 games that they played. And granted, 2 of them were ranked teams. Alabama won the title. Oregon was 12 today, but Minnesota unranked. And you're not going to be a championship contending team, maybe not a Big Ten contending team this year with a defense that's giving up 40 points a game.
All right, so first off, I think with how bad the Big Ten is, I think they're still fine in the Big Ten. Wisconsin didn't show crap. But besides that, like we always say, we look at the big picture. When we talk Ohio State, we don't really care about the Big Ten. We look at the Bamas and Clemsons and those teams of the world. I think Bama sort of showed a blueprint of how to beat Kerry Combs' defense, which is run in motion, show the man coverage, just put guys in motion and get open lanes. Minnesota, I don't think they had the playmakers to do that. But then Oregon, I'm not comparing Alabama and Oregon, but Oregon did the same exact thing today. Motion.
Good point.
Get guys to move and get the linebackers to move out of position and just boom, wide open lanes. And just like we've said like 5 times already, they literally ran the same exact play 3 times and scored 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And it was a guy in motion and then go to the short side of the field.
Yeah, take him the other way, go to the short side. Nobody sets the edge, touchdown. Physically today, out physical without question. John, I agree with you. Billy Beebe checking in with us says, were Stroud's 3 big missed throws enough to convince fans to change their minds on the QB? No, Billy, I don't think so. Baptism by fire. He almost threw for 500. He had some good throws. When he misses, Josh, it's when there's pressure, right? And he's trying to do too much and he misses high or too far. And that's just from the pressure. Now, do you think you see him doing this a lot with his arm, right? And that was after a big hit this week, but also last week I saw that. Do you think he's 100%?
Yes. Even though they shut him down in the preseason.
Okay.
I mean, they would never say that he's not 100%, but I think he might not be 100%, but at least like 90%. And speaking of Billy Beebe, he works for you, WHBC? Yeah,
WHBC.
Right?
Does
I've known him since he was like 3 years old. I played baseball with his older brother all throughout childhood.
Small world.
So shout out to all the Beebes, by the way.
He does the WHBCSports.com streaming high school football game of the week for us. Does a nice job for us. So thanks, Billy. So no, we don't think you make a change there with CJ Stroud, but you monitor that because he did miss a wide open Garrett Wilson for a game tying touchdown today. And you can't do that at Ohio State. Go ahead.
Before we move on, we also have to remember that CJ Stroud is not even close to Justin Fields. We were kind of lucky with Justin Fields. CJ Stroud is a true redshirt freshman playing in his first season. He just finished his 2nd career game. So just ease him in. He's not going to be Justin Fields off the rip.
Right.
So yeah, he's overthrowing the ball, but he's also very young, very inexperienced.
Fair point on your part. And I think other teams are now noticing he will not run unless absolutely necessary. And that hurts the Buckeyes offense. You had that threat going back how many years? And I don't know if they told him not to run. They don't want him to get hurt because they're worried about the backups they would have to put in place of him. And maybe he did get hurt on the one run today when he went to the sideline, and came up, working that right shoulder. So that's something that is not a weapon in this offense, and it hurts them. Buckeyes were out coached and outplayed and out everything. Prepare for 52-50 games, says David Shipe. And you know what, David? You're probably not that far off, my friend. I would say more into the 40-30 games, but you're not that far off. That's how they're going to have to win games.
Always bet the over. That's what I have to say to that.
Is that all? Always bet the over. We'll throw this up there right now for you. Here's what's coming for the Ohio State Buckeyes next week. On Saturday, the 18th, they are at home against Tulsa. It's a 3:30 kickoff. And with that in mind, Josh, what's the focal point if you're Ryan Day and this team this week after getting beat at home with a ton of recruits there, right? This was recruiting weekend, nationally televised game, beautiful day for football, getting those 4- and 5-star recruits. A lot of them just saw you get beat. What's the message to them as well as to your team as you get ready for Tulsa?
Win the Big Ten. I don't think they're worried about Tulsa and Akron.
Okay.
Just win the Big Ten and have one loss going into a potential college football playoff.
This team right now, to me, does not have the talent defensively and the experience offensively to win a national championship. 2 weeks, I know it's early, but you try and break down a team, and we're both Buckeye fans, but you got to be honest. And maybe we'll see other teams that are considered, national championship contenders look bad in games as well. But I don't see that out of Alabama. You don't see a drop off like this out of Alabama. Clemson, they didn't score a touchdown, right?
Yeah, they're 0-2 in their last 2 games now. No, they did not score a touchdown. They had a I don't even know.
13
it was
to 3?
Super low scoring.
It was 13 to 3, right, Georgia?
The only touchdown in the game was a defensive touchdown. There was no offensive touchdown.
So, okay, maybe that's a big drop-off as potent as they've been offensively and everything. But still, let's see how, they look the rest of the way. But Notre Dame looked really good, even though they almost blew it. Alabama, there's Alabama, right? And then there's everybody else, which includes Ohio State.
If there were tiers in college football, Alabama would be tier 1. The next tier would be like tier 4 or 5. Alabama, until Nick Saban shows differently, they are just. I mean, to beat Alabama, you're literally going to have to play a perfect game, just like Oregon did today. Yeah. You're going to have to hope for a lot of mistakes because they have a brand new quarterback. They lost so many players on offense, and they just have skill players everywhere, the offense and defense. It's crazy.
So the Buckeyes lose it today, 35-28. They're now 1-1. C.J. Stroud, 484, 3 touches, a costly pick. Olave, 12 catches, $126, no touchdowns. Smith and Jigba, great game, 7 catches, 145, 2 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson, 8 catches, $117, and a touchdown. He should have had a second one that Stroud overthrew him on that would have tied the game and maybe tied it and possibly sent it to overtime. So now they got to regroup and get ready for Tulsa, Akron, and then they got 2 crap teams in the Big Ten after that too, don't they, Josh? Like Rutgers and Maryland, is it?
Yeah, it's like a month-long practice, but 4 of the practices are against a different team other than your team.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
So since they're playing below average teams over the next 4 games, can we really judge if they get better, Josh, on offense or defense?
No.
Yeah, that's scary.
I think the thing that we can judge, though, is maybe Kerry Coombs can try to find out who his guys are.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I know the game 1, he rotated in a bunch of cornerbacks, a bunch of linebackers, defensive linemen. Maybe 4 weeks from now, he just needs to narrow it down a lot and just go with whoever you think is going to be the best player at that position. You can't be rotating all these guys. I mean, even defensively, I think it was the second quarter because they could have used a timeout late in the second quarter. It was out of an Oregon timeout, and Ohio State came out with 12 players on the field because they were just rotating cornerbacks all game. You can't waste a timeout coming out of a timeout.
Could have used that right before halftime, too.
Absolutely.
And Ryan Day's play calling there, you got to throw it to the sideline and get out of bounds. You can't throw over the middle when you don't have timeouts like that you burn for a stupid reason like that. Chris Cantor says Bucks could possibly be 0-2. Hope they can figure it out fast. Clearly, we're overrated at this point. Trailed 14-10 at halftime, trailed in the third quarter last week, trailed at halftime again today, and lost the game. So, Chris, normally I'd say, they ended up winning last week, but I get your point. Okay, they played out of 8 quarters, maybe 3 good quarters out of 8. Josh, that's it.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, it's a very inexperienced team. I think we went in with a little bit too high of expectations, especially with the defense the way it is. But if they go 11-1, which I think they should be favored in every Big Ten game they play in,
right?
Who wouldn't take an 11-1 season?
No, I hear you.
I mean, like I said, me and you both know we look at the big picture, but if they can still go 11-1 and win the Big Ten, I would take that. I mean, every team's going to have a blunder at some point. You can say that Ohio State. I mean, they lost handedly today because they never took the lead. But there were like 3 plays where you just said, if that happens instead of that,
right,
it's a tie game.
Right. It's a tie game at least. And give their defense some credit, Josh. The last 2 times they needed to get the ball back to the offense to give them a chance to tie, they did. And then the offense crapped the bed. You know what I mean? So Jim Cador says, I bet Art Schleister could have beat Oregon. Very funny, Jim. Thank you very much on that. But the only betting news that we'll give to you is what, Josh? Bet the over, right?
Yes.
That's
Absolutely. Always.
yeah. Andrew
Always.
Jenkins says this quarterback needs to use his legs more. We talked about that, Andrew, and I think they don't want him to get hurt before Big Ten play. And maybe they were using, this early portion of the schedule to grade players, and come when the real Big Ten season starts, we'll see different players starting at different positions. And hopefully it's some of those freshman defensive linemen if these upperclassmen can't get the job done. And can they still go sign a linebacker and have them play this year? Can they find somebody somewhere that maybe from Bishop Sycamore that's out of high school but not in college yet? And can they sign somebody from Bishop Sycamore to play linebacker for them? They need somebody at linebacker.
How did you just work Bishop Sycamore into this conversation?
That's how bad their defense is at Ohio State. I'm talking about Bishop Sycamore.
Not that bad.
Come on, Josh. 118 points in the last 3 games.
3 games.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Final thoughts from you, Josh. We're going to wrap this baby up. Thanks to everybody that's watching on Facebook. Give me your thoughts on today, the season so far, and looking ahead.
I'm disappointed today. I'm worried about the defense. I have high hopes for the offense still. It's a redshirt freshman quarterback. Just finished a second game. I've never been a quarterback before, so I don't know why he's overthrowing the ball so much.
That's why I asked you if he's hurt. Josh,
but if he was hurt,
wouldn't he underthrow sports though? No. In all my years of covering sports, a lot of times when you're hurt and you can't fully, come through all the way and follow through, that's when the ball sails. And that's with pitchers and, with quarterbacks. So that's why I asked you. I saw him do it last week and I saw him do it again today. So I'm wondering if that right shoulder isn't 100%. And I hope somebody this week, I'll try and get on the Ryan Day press conference call this week. I hope somebody asks that question of him, because I know there's pressure and he's young, and young guys tend to make mistakes like that, but at least ask the question to hear that he's 100%, because you need to phrase it the right way. You don't want to ask, is he hurt? You need to ask, is his right shoulder and arm 100% healthy?
And Ryan Day, being the experienced guy that he is, will answer the question by saying words but not actually answering the question.
Still got to ask.
Then just say, look at the pregame report,
right,
which will not have CJ Stroud on it. So just like Kevin Stefanski does. Kevin Stefanski is great at answering questions without really answering anything at all.
Well, then ask CJ Stroud that question if they allow him to talk. I know they're very selective in who they put out there to talk at Ohio State. They don't want to, have them have to answer any tough questions or anything like that, prepare them for life and everything in adversity. But that's okay. Whatever. That's all right. That's the way they do things there. You're laughing because I'm telling the truth, Josh. We always tell the truth on this show. I don't pull punches.
I agree. They don't want to put their players in position to say something stupid.
Yeah. Or, answer, legit questions.
Especially a redshirt freshman. They'll just say, those always use the seniors.
Yeah.
Which
Put them
is
out there.
All defense. Yeah.
Well,
but final thoughts continued.
Yeah.
Not worried about the offense.
Okay.
Offense will work its way back. Very worried about the defense. The defense can't compete with the big boys. And by the big boys, I mean the Alabamas and just Alabama, actually. Now that I think about it, just Alabama.
So
Alabama's the big boy.
Brad Hajosic is watching. Brad, thanks for hitting us up here. So you're not worried about anybody but Bama. You think the Buckeyes, by the time the season ends, if they were to get there in the Final Four, they can hang with anybody but Alabama as of right now?
I'm just trying to think.
Georgia, Notre Dame, Oklahoma.
Georgia's offense doesn't scare me.
Okay, and their quarterback has a core injury or something, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, their offense doesn't scare me. Clemson, I just hate Dabo. I hate talking about Clemson.
They've lost 2 in a row.
It's a strong word, but I hate Dabo. Yeah, they've lost back-to-back games, so I love that. Oklahoma, I mean, they struggled against Tulane, so I don't know how much you can judge them on that. I didn't watch Notre Dame last week, like you said you did. I did not watch them.
They dominated for 3 quarters. I turned it off, and then they won in overtime. I'm like, holy crap, what happened? So they looked really good at times, but they gave up a boatload of points to Florida State. So, and
I think when we started the show, I think they were losing to Toledo at home at halftime, but I could be wrong.
Wait, Notre Dame was losing or Florida State was losing to Toledo?
Notre Dame's down 16-14 with a minute and a half left in the third quarter to Toledo.
Okay. To Toledo.
Yeah, so besides Alabama,
the people
I'm not
in
worried.
Southern Ohio, it's Toledo. You got to call it Toledo.
Toledo?
Yeah, the Toledo Rockets.
So, yeah, besides, I mean, but like we said earlier, Bama's just in a whole different world of college football right now. Nick Saban has that team rolling no matter how many guys they lose to the NFL draft. It's just Alabama. It is literally Alabama versus the world because they are that much better than everyone else.
All right, let's see if the Buckeyes get back to the drawing board on defense, tweak a few things on offense with that throwing, shoulder of C.J. Stroud when the pressure's on, or if it's dinged up a little bit. And they'll bounce back. They'll beat Tulsa. They'll beat Akron. They'll beat Rutgers and Maryland in whatever order they play them in. And then we'll see at that point, what is that, 4? So they'll be 5-1 by that time. But we'll do this post-game show almost after every game here on Facebook. So all you Buckeye fans who have sent in a lot of comments today, please keep checking us out after every game. We'll post if we're not going to do a post-game show, but almost after every game we will do this. A couple of other things. Tomorrow, we will do a Browns post-game show after the Browns and the Chiefs. They open up their season tomorrow. We'll do this on Facebook with the Browns and Chiefs and throughout the season. Also, Monday Night Football trivia coming back to Johnny Malloy's in Medina. Josh, spread the word. Come on out. Get out, grab some wings, some beer, and we'll do some Monday Night Football trivia and have some fun on Monday night at Johnny Malloy's in Medina. And we'll, talk about the Buckeyes, I'm sure, on Monday night as well and see how everybody else did in college football. Josh, thanks for joining us, my friend. Have a good rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you next week. All right, pal?
Yep. Thanks. Go Bucks and go Browns hopefully tomorrow. Please don't go 0-2 this weekend. Please.
Yeah, it'd be a bad weekend for Northeast Ohio. Josh Paloha, you can hey Josh, Twitter handle, all that stuff before we go. I should put it up there on the screen. That's my bad. I'll have it for you next time.
WFNY kind of sounds like a radio station.
It does.
But it's waiting for nextyear.com. Twitter handle is JORSHP, George P. It's Josh with an RP.
Okay.
When you said WFNY earlier, I was like, wow, that really sounds like a radio station competing with WHBC.
That's why I struggle sometimes, because I'm like, wait a second. No, that's what it's waiting for next year. The website, WFNY.com, right?
Yeah, it's waiting for next year. I don't think it goes to waiting for next year.com if you do WFNY.com, but it's waiting for next year.com.
All right.
WFNY. Either way. Thank you.
Next week, we'll get the graphic put up for you so you have it there. All right.
Thanks. Next week, we'll blow out over Tulsa.
There you go. Yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about for a whole 5. Well, okay, real quick. How many points do they give up against Tulsa next week, this defense? Before I let you go. I keep saying I'm going to let you go, but how many points they give up?
In non-garbage time?
Just total points in the game. I don't care, because the garbage guys that'll be playing probably are the starters. So go ahead.
Wow, you put me at the 20.
I did.
20 or less.
I'm going to say.
But they'll score 50 plus.
I say they'll beat, without looking at who they're, who they have or anything, 52-21 Buckeyes next week. No, I'm going to say 52-24. No, 52-28 Buckeyes. No, 52-35. I don't know. They're going to give up a lot of points.
No matter what the projection is.
What?
Bet the over.
Bet the over. Thank you very much. All right, Josh, I will let you go. See you, buddy. Have a good weekend. There he is. And real quick, let me get this last question in, trying to answer everybody. From PDX Buckeye, from my perspective, the linebacker play was not good. Eichenberg was out of position on a number of key plays. You are correct. Linebacker play has been terrible for years now at Ohio State, and they've got to get that fixed somehow, some way, if they want to contend for a Big Ten title and get into the college football playoff. All right, that's going to do it for another edition of the Buckeye Postgame. Thanks to everybody who watched, who sent messages in. And don't forget, after every game, I think for the entire season, we'll be doing this with the Buckeyes football and Browns football here on Facebook. So check us out. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you. Bye.